Today we will solve a problem related to permutation, which I came across while I was reading the book named Cracking the Coding Interview. So Cracking the Coding Interview is a very good book based on the subject of how you can be successful in your next technical interview. So if you have an upcoming interview or preparing to give an interview in near future, I would strongly recommend you guys to go check that book out. The problem statement is something like this. I have already written it here. Check permutation. Given two strings, write a method to decide if one is a permutation of the other, right? So just for the introduction to the permutation. So permutation, the definition of permutation is this: each of several possible ways in which a set or number or characters of things can be ordered or arranged, right? So I will give you an example what permutation is. So let's see, we have a string with characters A, B, B, E, D, E, R, right? And we have another string which is B, 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 A, E, and R, right? So we can see that the second string is made up of all the same characters which are in string 1, right? So we can make string 2 by using all the characters of string 1. So we can say that string 2 is a permutation of string 1, right? So this is we are going to address today. We will write a function which will receive two parameters, two strings, and we will return true or false based on if one string is the permutation of another or not. We will solve this problem in two ways today. So let's say the interviewer adds a condition that you cannot use any additional data structure to solve this problem. When you are solving a problem, try to apply the techniques you already know to the problem to see if it can simplify the problem, right? Like maybe if the input was sorted, will it help? Or maybe you can use any data structure, will that simplify the problem? So let's see the inputs, right? This is input 1 and this is input 2, right? So if we think about sorting, like, right, so if these strings were sorted based on the alphabet, so the element at each index for both of the strings should be same, right? So if I sort these two strings, so this will be something like this. The string 1 will be like this and string 2 will be like this, right? So after the sorting, these two strings should be equal, right? So yeah, that's it. That's the simple solution for this problem without using any data structure, right? So let's start with the code. So the first step, we can we can just sort both strings. So in Python we can use sorted function. So we will pass value 1 to this and it will return another string. So we will use that string, and same with the value 2. So we will sort value 2. Now value 1 and value 2 will contain these strings, not the ones we were looking at before, right? So now we can just simply check that if value 1 equals value 2, it means they are permutation of each other. So we will return true, else we will return false, right? Now we will call this function and see if it is working correctly or not. So I will call this function with these two inputs we were looking at before. So this should return 2, right? It is returning 2. Let's swap the characters. So let's say it is something like this, right? So order is different but the characters are still same, so they still are the permutations of each other. Still we are getting true. For this case we are getting false, yes. For this case we are getting false, right? So this is the solution. We can add additional improvement over this. So at the start of our function we can check that if the length of string 1 is not equal to length of string 2, we can be sure that these two are not permutations of each other, because if every character in the string 1 was being used in string 2, the lengths would have been same, right? So if the lengths are not equal, they are not permutations. So we can add this case to improve the the speed of our function. So if these are not equal, we will check false, and yeah, otherwise we will go through all the logic we have written here, right? So it is still working. So let's see for the different length. This is a different length, it will return false. In this case it didn't run any of this code, it just checked the length and returned false, right? So this was the basic solution for this problem, right? The complexity of this problem is n log n, right? So we can see we are sorting the string here. So the best sort we can do is in the with the complexity of n log n. This is n log n, right? And this is n log n. So n log n plus n log n will be 2 n log n, which will be same as big O n log n, right? So can we do it better? Yes, if we can use additional data structure, we can do it better than n log n. So let's solve it in the way by using additional data structure. Now we will solve this problem using additional data structure, right? So the first step will be the same. So we will just check that if lengths are not equal, we will return false. So now what will be our approach, right? So basically we will use dictionary. So what we will do is, like, for every character in the first string, like in A, B, B, we will add a key in our dictionary, and the value will be the count of the occurrences of that key. So for example, we create this dictionary and we will have a key A because the character is here, and we will have the count 1 here, and for B we will have count 3 here, right? How we will do this we will see later in our code, but this is the basic idea, right? After that we will loop through the second string, and for each occurrence of second string, for each character in the second string, we will subtract the count from our dictionary which we built earlier, right? So when we receive A, we will subtract 1 from this key, so it will become 0. We will see B, we will subtract 1, it will become 2, then it will become 1 when it will receive second B, and then when it will receive this third B, it will subtract 1 more and it will become 0. Our loop will exit, right? After that, for every key in our dictionary, we will check if we have any value greater than 0. It means the strings were not permutation of each other, and if we have zeros in all the values, we will say that the strings were permutation. The zero value is important because the idea is for every character in string 1 we are adding 1 in our dictionary, right? So for every character in string 2 we are subtracting 1. So if the number of characters and the occurrences of characters will be same, of course the sum of those will be 0, right? We will create a dictionary to keep track of number of occurrences of each character. So we will call that dictionary tracker. Now we will loop through our first string for character in value 1, right? So what we'll do is we will add the key with the name character in our dictionary, and we will add 1 to the previous count, whatever the count was previously. This means we have encountered another entry of that characters, we will add 1 with that, right? So we need to set the default value here, for because initially tracker.get will not give me anything because there will be no value for the key character, right, which will be A for the first iteration. So we need to return 0 because if it is not there, it means there was 0 occurrences of that character. So we will add 1 to this value, whatever the value is, right? After that, if this was our input, we will have a dictionary something like this, where A will have value 1 and B will have value 3, right? Now we will loop through the second string, and first we will get the count of each character. So for the first iteration, we will get the count for the first character, which will be something like this. Okay, so we need to add a check here which will see if we are encountering a new character or it was there before, right? So if character count is 0, so yeah, so well, we will handle this case later. First we will see if there is any character count, right, which means that the character was in the first dictionary. Now we need to check now we need to subtract 1 from this count. So like for this case we will encounter A, so now we will subtract 1 from here, right? So we will say that tracker with key character is equal to whatever the character count was before minus 1. So it was 1 before, and now we will subtract 1 from it, so it will become 0, right? In the next iteration it will pick this b. It will see that we have received a character count, so we will subtract 1, so it will make this 3 or 2, then 1, and then when it will receive last b, it will subtract 1 more and it will become 0. So after the second iteration, our dictionary will look something like this, right? Now we will iterate through the values of our dictionary to see if we have 0 at all the places, right? So we will say for value in tracker dot values. So if any of the value is greater than 0, it means the strings were not a permutation of each other. So we will just return false from here, or else we will return true. Right? And also, yeah, here, so we need to add condition here. So if character count was there, so we it tells us that the character was there, then we will, check the count. But if character was not there at all, we don't need to, iterate through other characters. We know straightforwardly that yes, it was not the permutation, so we will just return false from here, right? So this is a solution in which we have used a dictionary, and it has, we will see the complexity of this code also. I will like to point out one thing here, that if you can see, I have added else after the for. So in Python we have this feature, which, if we are iterating through the list, and if we have consumed all the list, so in that case the else part will be, uh, will run. So in this case, if we don't find any value greater than 0, which means the for loop was run completely with all the values, so then it will, give go to the else part, and we are returning true there. And if we find any value in greater than 0 in this dictionary, we will just return false, right? So let's try to run this code and see if it works or not. So here is our example call. So for this case it should be false. Yes, it is false. Let's say, let's check for a case where it should be true. So we have two b's, one a and one e. So this should return true. Yes, it is returning true. And if the let's see another example. So yeah, here it is. So this is our another solution. So let's look at the complexity of this code. So we are iterating through this loop. So this can be bigger of n, right? We can say this was n. Then we are iterating to another string which is of the same length, of course. So we will say it is also n. Then we are iterating on the values of our dictionary, which can be n or n minus 1. So we can just, for the worst case, we can say this is n, right? So n plus n will be 3n, which will be equal to big O of n, right? So we have seen that how we have improved our big O from n log n to n by using an additional data structure. So this is it for today. See you next video.